Let's restore a potato plow.
Now, a quick expert tip is that you can find a consignment or a used section of almost every implement dealer out there. It's not always necessary for you to go out and buy a brand new piece of equipment when you can get one that has been lightly or heavily used at your local implement dealer. Give it a try and you might just find what you're looking for. Now, I did find what I was looking for, which is a middle buster, or like what I like to call is a potato plow. I'm using this particular piece of equipment to make a trench for me to dump compost in, so that when I do my blackberries and raspberries in the spring, I'm able to create a trench to put nutrition into and then go back and power till that in. Now, when you get started on any piece of equipment, make sure that you do it safely by getting it secured onto a rack of some sort. Here I just used some automotive stands, and I was able to get the pieces off that I needed, and then I started sanding them down with my grinder with a abrasive pad wheel attached to it. I went through and I did that fairly aggressive, and then I went and I did some inspections on this particular unit.
Let's talk about what to look for whenever we're refurbing these implements to use on the farm.
So there's a lot of things to look for in equipment before you buy and after you buy it. Before you buy it, you're making sure that you can go onto the interwebs and buy yourself replacement parts. Or if you're in an area that has heavy agriculture, maybe there's somebody who actually has other units like this that you can get some spare parts off of, just in case something breaks when you're out in the middle of the field. Also, make sure you have a blowtorch, because blowtorches are excellent ways of being able to get these parts off in case they do break. Now, there wasn't any broken parts on my piece of equipment, but these bolts were definitely used, bent, threads were destroyed on them, so I was able to get them off with a hot torch, set them aside, and I replaced them. After I did that, I went through all of my pieces to make sure that the cast iron on these particular joints were all intact, that there was no any fractures, and that all of the welds where the pieces were welded to the tube stock were still intact, they weren't cracked, and there wasn't any defects that needed to be fixed. If there was, you can either take it to get welded or you can weld it yourself. I looked at all of the joints on here, and the joints were in excellent condition. I had no concerns about any of it, and I was ready to get started. With that being said, let's talk about the different paint that you can get on your units. Now, most hardware stores will have things for you to use. I just happen to like the Rust-Oleum brand. And the Rust-Oleum brand has a rust primer that works just with units that actually have heavy rust. And they also have a whole line of farm paint. So just about every brand from Kubota to John Deere to Massey Ferguson, you will find a paint in a can that you can use in order to get things back to the way they were when they, well, left the factory. I went through on these pan heads and I was painting the springs, and also double checking those to make sure they were in good shape. There was no problems with those, so I started getting the bolts out. Once I got my brand new bolts that I got at my local hardware store into the unit, I was able to tighten them down and get them reattached back onto the cast iron sleeves that attached onto my square stock. I hope this video helps whenever you plan on doing any type of refurbishing of equipment on your farm. And I was pretty pleased on how this piece of equipment turned out. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do it just the way that I did it. I was very happy with the fact that I didn't have to replace anything, and that all I had to do was just throw in a few new bolts. And well, with that being said, that is a wrap.